Hi, this is Rachelle with Scrapcraftastic, and I am back for part 2 of the creation of the Boudoir Journal. I'm using papers that are available in my shop at Journal Life's Journey. I'll put a link in the description box below. I'll also link to part 1 in case you missed it and want to check it out. For this journal, I'm making 2 inserts, one for the front inside cover and one for the back inside cover. So as you can see here, this is kind of where we left off, where I had put clips on the cover papers. Well, I am working on the inside pieces now. I'm playing around with how I want the flips and flaps to work on the inside covers for these inserts. I don't really have a specific plan in mind. I kind of know that I do want a lot of flips and flaps and tucks and pockets and things like that. So I'm trying to figure out a way to make all of that work. I'm using some large black envelopes and some smaller ones. The large ones I think will hold 5x7 cards. I'm not sure about the size of the smaller ones. I think they're designed to hold a quarter page, so about 4.25 by 5.5. So I did decide to use this cameo design as the cover for the back insert. So I'm figuring out how I want all of this to fold and attach to the insert. I'm leaving a lot of that footage in so that you can see the process and see that you don't always have a specific plan in mind. I kind of experiment. I love experimenting and trying different things. Sometimes I experiment and try things that just absolutely don't work. Maybe one day I'll show you a journal that I tried to create and it just absolutely doesn't work. I'm still trying to figure out a way to make it work, but until then it's kind of just sitting off to the side. But yeah, it doesn't hurt to try and fail, because then you figure out what not to do the next time. And it's just all a learning process to me. It's a challenge. So anyway, here I'm using the Black Silk Distress ink by Tim Holtz to ink the edges of this piece of cardstock. And I'll be attaching this piece to the piece with the cameo on it. So here I'm finding the center of this piece because I'm going to punch a thumb notch in it. I'm using a 1.5 inch circle punch, and I do try to list all of the supplies that I use in the description box below. So if you ever have a question about something that I don't mention, check the description box below. And if you still don't see it, let me know in the comments and I'll try to help you as best as I can. So here I'm working things out, figuring out how all of this is going to fit together and inking the edges of the cameo piece. And I do know that that is not actually a cameo. It's similar to a cameo, so that's why I'm calling it that. So you'll see me doing a lot of dry fitting and adjusting, and in between all of that, I'm thinking, is this going to work? I'm thinking about how things connect and how they work together. I'm using art glitter glue here in this instance because I wanted to get a precise application, and with that needle nose bottle, I'm able to get a precise application. I've had some questions about how I decide which glue to use where. I will do a separate video explaining all of that and talking about the different glues and adhesives I use. If you're interested in seeing what I use, I do have a section in my Amazon shop for adhesives. My Amazon shop is linked in the description box below. But for this project, I use a variety of different glues. I like to use Fabri-Tac with cardstock, but I don't use Fabri-Tac as much as I could. For one, it is very expensive, at least it is to me. And two, it irritates my skin, so I have to be very careful with it. So here I am working on the base piece for the front inside cover. I've made 2 pockets with cardstock that I'm going to be attaching to the cardstock base that you see there in pink. Again, I'm using art glitter glue so that I get a fine line around the edges of the pocket. And I'm putting that piece together. This base piece is the piece that all the flaps and envelopes and everything will attach to for this front insert. So I'm mitering the tabs for the pieces that I'm going to be attaching to the base. I also have this pocket here that is part of the kit. I'm prepping the pocket, but at this point I won't use it. Just trying to decide if it will work in this insert. The corset is also from the kit. Here I have one of the small black envelopes, testing it out to see if it will work as a flip. And now I'm just deciding on what paper or cardstock I'm going to use to mat the envelope. Inking the edges. Now here I use the Fabri-Tac. Also, I tend to use Fabri-Tac when I have a large area to cover, and usually when I'm using a heavy cardstock, I use Fabri-Tac. So large area, heavy cardstock, Fabri-Tac. Art glitter glue will work just as well though. I also like the Fabri-Tac because it's an easy cleanup. I have a glue remover. We used to call them rubber cement removers because it doesn't remove all glue, just a particular type. But the glue remover, if you have any seepage or anything like that, it will remove the glue easily. So here I'm matting the side of the envelope with the opening, and I'm not going to seal the opening closed, nor am I going to follow the angles of that opening. I'm just going to do a opening straight across with a thumb notch. So when I glue my mat down after I ink it, I'll add the glue to the actual envelope so that I leave that opening open. If I add the glue to the matting paper, I'll end up closing up my envelope and I won't have a pocket there. So I'm using the Fabri-Tac and adding it directly to the envelope. That way I can ensure that I do not glue my pocket closed. So here, this is completely off track because I needed something to reinforce my gussets, and I'm using masking tape. I think this is 2 inches wide on a sticker paper backing. So I kept the backing of some sticker paper after I used all the stickers, and I'm carefully adding the masking tape to it. I am going to attempt to print on this. So here I'm just trimming off any excess, making sure I don't have anything hanging over the edge so that I can go through my printer smoothly, easily. And now I'm just going to use my scoring tool to burnish the tape down onto the sticker backing paper just to make sure everything is nice and smooth. And here is the printed version. I briefly show you what it should have looked like. It should have been more pink, but because of the natural color of the masking tape, it came out this color, which is fine. It has a little bit of a pink tone to it. It just didn't come out quite the color that I was hoping for, but I didn't even think it would work. So I think the result is good. I also wasn't sure that the ink was actually adhered to the tape. I kept thinking that it was just floating on top of the tape and that it would rub off, but I kept checking and it didn't seem to rub off. If I had this to do over again, what I would have done is printed the same pattern that the paper is that I wanted to add the tape to. So that vintage floral look should have been what I used to print the tape, but now that I know it works, I'll use it again in the future. I also have some other ideas for reinforcing gussets and folds. So I'm going to do the same thing here with the tape added to the gusset. And I didn't add any extra glue to the tape, so I'm peeling it up just a bit here to add the glue stick to make sure that stays in place. So this is where we are so far. I have more mats to add to envelopes, more flaps, envelopes that will be flaps. The red that you see, I also incorporated some of the papers from the Love Notes kit, also available in the Journal Life's Journey shop. I'll link to that in the description box below. And here I'm showing you the progress that I've made at this point. I have attached some of the envelopes. We have flaps, we have pockets, and most everything is matted on the inside. So this is where I am. Just making sure that everything is going to fit together nicely. Now I'm going to be working on the outside envelope flaps for this insert. I am going to line the inside of the envelopes, not the entire inside, just the part of the envelope that will actually show. And for this part, I am using paper instead of cardstock. So for the linings, I'll use paper. For the matting, I typically use cardstock, but again, it depends on the project. So just lining everything up, trimming it down to fit in the space that I need. And I'm lining the envelope in this instance because I intend to mat these envelopes with the same angles that the envelope has. So the opening will look just like it does now, only with matted papers on it. So I'm trimming off the excess and lining the other envelope. If you would also like to see live streams with me creating journals and things like that, let me know in the comments below. So here I am reinforcing the fold. I did not do that on the other one. I should have. Hopefully it will hold up. But it just dawned on me that maybe I should reinforce the fold area, gusset area with a little masking tape. And then now I'm going to go ahead and add the lining. So I'm choosing the paper that I want to use for the angled area of the envelope, where the opening is of the envelope. And I'm just trimming off the white margin. I'm trimming down the cardstock to prepare to cover the area where the opening is for the envelope, and I've actually cut the paper in the wrong orientation. I don't even realize it yet, but you will see later on what I do to fix that error. So what I'm doing here is sliding in the piece that's going to go on the outside of the envelope so that I can trace the angles of that envelope so that I can trim that piece down to fit in that same shape. This is something that I'm not very good at, but I'm sure I can get better if I keep practicing. But I struggle with trying to mimic the shape of an envelope's opening, especially when it's a shape like this. Adding the fabric tag and matting the opening side of the envelope. So now that the lining area has dried a little bit, I'm going to try to reinforce the folds, the natural fold of the envelope, as well as the scored fold that I added to add a gusset. So there's the natural fold, and then I went over about a 1/2 inch and created another fold so that there would be a gusset for this flip. And I did that to both of the envelopes that I'm matting here. So this is how the two envelopes will fit on my base piece. And this is also where I noticed that the paper is going in the wrong direction. So after I've matted the outside of the envelope, I'm going to use this offcut piece here to create a pocket that will cover up the area that is most noticeable that it's going in the wrong direction. It probably would have been fine if I just left it the way it was, but I decided to go ahead and cover her up. And it also adds an extra pocket, so that works out fine. I'm going to use the We Are Memory Keepers envelope punch board to make the thumb notch for this pocket. So I'm finding the center and I'm going to use the punch to make the notch. And adding glue to 3 sides. And now we have an added pocket on the envelope. So this is where we are so far. Again, the red roses that you see are from the Love Notes kit. I will be using other papers from that kit as well. So here I'm back to working on the back insert, doing some more matting of envelopes. This time I am not following the shape of the envelope. I'm just going to make one large pocket with a straight edge and a thumb notch. So I'm adding the glue directly to the envelope once again to make sure that my envelope remains open. So the thumb notch is there to let you know that it's a pocket, and that whole area is an open pocket. And I'm going to mat and do the same thing on the other side. I'm adding a little glue to the areas of the envelope that were not glued down properly so that when I slide something into that pocket, it doesn't catch in that area. Here I'm adding the glue once again to the pocket area, and no rhyme or reason why I'm using art glitter glue. I just am. I am running low on Fabri-Tac right now, so I'm probably just trying to conserve my Fabri-Tac, and I have plenty of art glitter glue on hand. So everything here is matted and all the flips are ready to go. So I had this offcut and I was going to make a pocket with it for another section of this project, and then it didn't work for that section. So I cut out the center and turned it into a frame. And now I'm going to use a piece of offcut laminate. This is why I keep my larger pieces of laminate when I laminate something and I just have some clear laminate. I use it as an acetate and use it to make windows for different projects. So I just cut off a piece that will fit in this space. I'm going around the edge of the window area or frame area with red line tape. I'm using 1/8 inch tape. I know that's small, but that's what I had on hand, and I'm not using it for anything else, so I figured I would use it on this project. I'm also going around the edge of the laminate. So here I'm just burnishing everything down and removing the backings. And just added a little Fabri-Tac just to make sure that it holds and stays in place. It also gives me a little wiggle room to line things up with that double-sided tape. Smoothing everything down. So here I'm inking up the inside of the pocket, the inside top area, because that will be visible when the pocket is pulled open. So I didn't want just a stark white there. So I added some ink. And I'm also going to miter the bottom part of the accordion area where it's going to connect to the page. I don't actually have a flap on the bottom to connect, so I wanted to remove some of that bulk at the bottom so that when I add the glue down there, it won't have so much bulk and it will be able to stick to the base page that I'm adding it to. Just checking to make sure this is where I want to add this. and putting it in place and holding it, just allowing the glue some time to grab. And I'm burnishing down those folds, make sure that everything is still going to close, because this is somewhat of a bulky piece, but I think it's really nice. And throughout this project, you'll see that I am into the frames. So I'll be making several frames. But in the meantime, I did this in a recent video, which I will link in the iCard up above. I am making an origami pouch. I thought this would be a nice addition to the Boudoir Journal. I'm using paper to do this, not cardstock. And if you would like more information on how to do it, I will link to the video in the iCard up above and you can check out the instructions. But I think these little pouches are great additions to junk journals, handmade journals, planners, notebooks. I think they're just cute and they're really easy to make and a great option for storing items. So I'm inking it up. And now I'm just trying to find a place where it will look nice. I think it looks nice on the page with the sheer curtain. So that is where it's going to go. Just adding some ink to a little area that I missed. So as I mentioned, I like the frames. So I am about to create another frame. And the frame pockets are a little tricky because of the bulk of the flap where it has to glue down on the page, or the tab, or the gusset, maybe you want to call it. I'll be using the We Are Memory Keepers frame punch board. Now this punch board isn't the easiest to use. It gives me issues, but I still like it. Most of the issues it gives me are user error, but it is a little finicky and you got to do things just right. This second part of the process, after you punch those holes where you cut the paper in between the holes, is where I usually run into problems. But I still like it, and I could actually skip this step and use my X-Acto knife to cut those areas, which I probably will do in the future. But for now, especially on smaller pieces, I'm okay with the punch board. It's when I get to larger, more bulky pieces that I run into problems. Okay, so just looking for a place to put this frame because I didn't have anywhere in particular that I wanted to add it. I used a piece of offcut and yeah, I just wanted to make a frame. So this is the end of part 2. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe and turn on your notifications so you don't miss upcoming videos in this series. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, you may be interested in this other video. Thanks for watching and I'll talk to you later. Bye.